priority is to bring the builders together, bring the community together. This is why xDay Satellite Munich seems like a great step that achieves these priorities.
We're gonna try to be as honest as possible and make you a little bit think. I know sometimes it's hard, but maybe we're gonna sweeten stuff with some old jokes.
The fact that you build something without sharding just means you're dead. Maybe the next podcast we should also do in German, fully.
Lucian. Jawohl.
Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of Full Shard Podcast. It's going to be a different episode today. It's the second one, but I lost a bet, so we'll go full shard.
Full Shard Podcast.
Full Sharded Podcast. This is the name.
Yes.
Yeah. We're not going to change it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Might try it, but later.
I had in my mind a different name, Riders on the Storm.
Or I like this one. I like this one as well.
The Matrix has you.
Oh.
Has me.
Yes. And I see also the legal implications.
Oh shit. Yeah. We'll go there, definitely.
Yes.
It's not something very sexy, but we'll have to do it. So, I'm Lucian. I'm here with
Lucian Minku.
And
Benjamin Minku.
Yeah, and I have some nicknames for you. You want to heard them?
Me. Make it good, man.
My best version.
I respect.
And this is the Rider on the Storm.
Oh, there we go.
Let's fucking go.
Let's do it.
Cool. What about me?
Iron Man.
Yeah, Iron Man.
Full power.
I like it. So, let me tell you a bit about what is this podcast about, right? So, we're gonna go a little bit behind the scene regarding what's happening in this world, especially blockchain, technology, AI, and even politics, and maybe some other stuff. What we hope to achieve with this podcast, we're not gonna cut it. Let's move on. We're gonna try to be as honest as possible and make you a little bit think. I know sometimes it's hard, but maybe we're gonna sweeten stuff with some old jokes and make you smile. So, also one thing that we're gonna do is also give you some quick updates about the MultiversX and maybe some news or not. Any news?
We'll find some news.
I do have a bunch of. I've been covering quite some stuff. More than happy to share some.
Cool. So maybe one thing to mention is that we do have some recurring themes that we're gonna do. I think every episode is going to some lesson learned, some things that we never shared before, and maybe, as I said, some personal or I don't know, funny stuff. So we said before the legal part, right? So we do have to give you a little bit of a disclaimer here. Everything we say, don't take it serious. Although sometimes we might look serious, like me. Also, we are not, how it's called, MDs. So
Yes.
Any health advice, take it with a grain of salt. And any investment or thing that we mention about coins,
Projects,
projects.
technologies, investments, and so forth should not be taken as investment advice.
Definitely. But maybe to mention one thing is one of the superpowers I have is something about reading or seeing the future, but it only works if there are two options, A and B, and I'm going to tell you which one is going to happen. So please write me on Twitter, A and B, and I'm going to tell you which one is going to happen.
We should do that.
Lucian the Oracle. Let's call it like that. I think that would be the second nickname.
We'll definitely iterate with nicknames and so forth until something sticks.
Let me just put a disclaimer. I used to be called the Oracle. I used to know quite some stuff, and now I can license my brand to you, Lucian, if you like the Oracle, at least for a while, for this campaign.
In what context?
in any context you want.
In any context.
Yeah. As long as you're doing a good job with it, of course. That's I guess this would I lend it to you or not? Would it be successful or not?
Give me two versions. So
it is.
Yes, it's going to be successful. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Got it. Took me a while, but
welcome back. Yeah. For the second time, welcome back, Lucian. Pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you, Benjamin, as well.
Pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. No, I think it's great to start. It's great to have the disclaimers out and to do some deeper dives.
Let's dive in, guys. So we're going to start with some personal stuff. Want to do that? I don't want to do that, but that's why I'm going to skip this part. So, guys, tell me something interesting or cool that happened to you or heard of or read about last week. I'm going to help you here. We were discussing before, definitely preparing for this, about the founders mode. Benjamin, can you tell us a little bit what is this, let's say, story that I think was pretty discussed in the last week or a few weeks?
So maybe the context here is this. Paul Graham has written now famous essay, which is Founder Mode. He was discussing basically there about a talk that Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, has given under off-the-record settings to the Y Combinator class that they had at that point, like last week. And this traveled around the world because people either resonated with it very strongly or they got polarized very strongly. And the entire point is this, that you generally get all this advice about how to build a company, how to run a team, how to do this and that. And somehow the books, the advice, if you listen to it and go with it, you'll die. And it's like your intuition tells you that this will not work, but you'll still try and try and try. And the entire point is that there was no name, no label for this idea. And this is now called founders mode. This mode that where you're trying to build something super crazy, difficult, and so forth. You're trying to scale it, and you've not. Sometimes you listen to advice because some advice is super useful and it's important to take it, learn it, and so forth. Sometimes you need to intentionally go in the opposite direction and take the hard road, the counter point that no one is seeing, and so forth. Finding the difference between when to take the advice, when to go on the road less traveled. I think that's the difficult part, and that's sort of the founder mode part. Now, there's probably a bit of a joke to it and some entire context here. And there are many jokes on this front on how not to do founder mode. And things that you'll probably hear whenever someone fucks up something, breaks it, doesn't do it good. It's founders mode.
Founders mode. Yep, it's a good excuse or motivation. By the way, I think you mentioned the polarizing part regarding the story. And maybe one thing that the reason behind this is that there are not so many founders in relative numbers to that. And maybe it's not easy to relate to that. Also for us as founders is, let's say, very nice to have an explanation why sometimes you need to do stuff differently as a startup or as a founder than, let's say, the more established companies or corporations. And I believe that most of the successful, let's say, companies were or are with founders still very involved or there. Of course, there are always exceptions. Sometimes they do step back and stuff like that. Lucian, what do you think about the founders mode?
So
You can say the funny part if you want.
No. I'll just tell my personal part. So the funny part is that first Benny sent me the link. Of course, gave it. I first waited a bit, saw a lot of signals on Twitter everywhere around, then decided, okay, I'm just gonna do it. Read it and then read it twice, 3 times. Almost got triggered. Dude, I'm not fucking understanding this. I was questioning, not sure if I should tell Beni, dude, this doesn't give me anything clear. It just tells there's something that actually we don't know how to describe yet. That's the essay about. And it tells that we should look into more into what makes a good founder and what's the recipe around that and what are actually the good habits and so forth, and write more about it and encourage more about that. And then most probably we're going to end up having more startups, but doesn't tell you anything about what is a good founder, and especially also throws some more mud on project managers and actually the current structure of most of the companies, right? So I was, of course, even more triggered first, and then I tried to summarize and said, from my point of view was, I said, to quote myself, does it mean to get the fuck out, get back in the trenches and do the work? Does that what the founder mean? Is that maybe one of, and indeed, actually, funny enough that I've listened to a couple of podcasts right after, and one of them was the All In pod with Chamath, and actually resonated. Like I first wrote the too long didn't read version to Beni, ask him to is just to at least don't feel bad about it. That it seems like everybody's talking about something that they don't get it first, but actually it feels like because it was so ambiguous and it was not on point. Actually, it let a lot of room for everybody to put it in and talk, made jokes, praise the jokes around it. Good, what makes a good and bad founder around that. And maybe Beni, if you want to tell the joke with the SoftBank or the other one, maybe just to...
Yeah, but I'll mention 3 points. One is, it's interesting because this was one of the most circulated essay, I think, in the history of what Paul Graham has written.
Really?
There was none that was literally in that day shared by everyone, including Musk. And
what is the Musk opinion about that?
He just said worth reading. Like very reasonable, very okay. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to be there and to understand this. And another thing for people to be able to label something. Sometimes because you cannot label something, you're semi-dead. Once you can label it, at least you can say this might be good, might be bad, and so forth. So there's an entire conversation around schools of thought where founders are good or founders are bad. You need to scale in this way or you need to do it in that other way. And labeling it and intentionally leaving it open where you don't say that much almost seems an invitation for everyone to get semi-polarized. You only said something and then it's open-ended. And I think this is funny because Paul Graham has written all these essays, but for one really short essay that basically doesn't tell you too much other than the label, it definitely got eyeballs like no other essay.
I think it applies like everything. Whatever can become a good joke, a good meme, it will become a lot more popular than everything else. Remember, and just to do a small break here from the founders mode, I remember the one with Vitalik pointing and generating the cow. It was a request from the comments he received on many of his Twitter posts that he should do a lot more bull posting about Ethereum and less philosophical text around it. And then it generates a bull actually with a shield hanging on the neck
So
of the
she
cow.
took it literally.
Yeah, and wrote Ethereum is good, and then it actually got I think
More views in the few minutes,
In the-
like 2 minutes, than anything he wrote.
yeah, and that's actually also my theory when it comes to. Of course, it was good and so forth, but it also let a lot of space actually to interpret and not actually criticizing that much everything around.
I think the essay of Polygram was targeting the founders. That's why not only the founders, but they were the ones who were, let's say, in the main target of the essay. And for example, for me, it was like a relief, because as in life in general, and not only startups, people usually like to give you advice, to tell you how things should work. And this is not something that usually founders are not those kind of people that you can tell them what to do, but they will do what they want. But definitely, because doing startups is really, really hard, there are moments when you start to have some doubts. You start to think, well, this can be done better, faster. And this founders mode, it's a very good, let's say, mindset to go and trust your feelings, to be there in the mud, to get your hands dirty, and not necessarily do the stuff that other companies, no longer startups, or when they are already big enough, don't do it that way. But of course, people took it personally, some people, because it kind of, let's say, minimized a little bit some things that some people...
The managerial class, because this was the polarization. So you can make out of this something totally different, which is, hey, you're essentially minimizing everything, do whatever the hell you want, and then call it founders mode. And you're...
As I said, it's a good excuse.
And that was not the point. The point was, there's no simple recipe. Whatever you're trying to do, there's no simple recipe. Books are good. You should learn from books. People are good. You should learn from people, whatever fits. But the idea that you should find your own way as you build this startup, that was the sort of essence of what's conveyed, especially when it comes to scaling. Because we've discussed several times, for instance, what problems you have in Europe, because you don't have the culture of scaling something beyond the first few millions. And you can see it, whatever you're trying to do.
Millions of what?
Yeah, the first few millions of users or dollars or whatever you want. But I then remember that we discuss every time how the US has this strong culture that is very new and very unlike all the other corporate cultures, managerial cultures that help you take it from like 1 million, 10 million to billions of dollars, which is very, very different from a standpoint of what you should build.
Quite interesting, actually, that my first line of Too Long Didn't Read sent to you was, does it mention, that's at least was my take, does it mention that founders should still go out in the trenches and get the work done? That's what it means. And actually, from a US perspective, like the biggest VCs, they do expect and wish and want from you to as a founder, and from their experience, given the billions that they made, sharing some of the experience. Actually, post that essay, we're saying no. Like, let me just be very clear. The first million, the first billion will be when the founders are in the trenches pushing like crazy, and will be part of the work. And then also scaling up, just to zoom out, and they were also mentioning, like, just scale up the business. There's a correlation of the success or the amount of successful startups that have put and forced and found a way to keep the founders inside to keep give them a job. Even though you hire managers and you scale up the business and so forth, they should still try to spend as much time as possible and not fire them, not get them away by any means. And that's also very, very interesting that actually there's a pure correlation on the map.
I think we can make a full podcast only about that. There are so many school of thoughts regarding startups and companies and founders. There are infinite numbers of ways to fail. Usually there are only few ways to actually make it. Yes. And usually is the founders that are lightening the way and are finding that
I'm
way.
getting goosebumps just thinking about every time. Like if you can, I think if any of our listeners can understand the weight, the responsibility, and the pressure, being able to talk, walk through, share some insights, and give a perspective of how we see things. The main reason is to take them on board. And my thesis is always, I'm not a believer into the strong believer into whatever only I think and so forth. The reason I'm explaining all of this is that I'm open. Once you see the path I'm going, I'm open to any better suggestion. Like if there's a way of doing it better, that's why I'm here. To actually improve and support.
I remember something I've seen when visiting a company, a startup. On the door of the CEO was something, paper put there, and is, if you have opinions, let's go with mine. So,
what was the point? What do you think is the lesson
Founders
there?
mode.
well, without a little bit of context, sounds a little bit strange. That's why I put it like that. But the idea was, if you don't come with facts or stuff like that, that you can, let's say, argue and make a point. Let's go with mine opinion. So the idea is to yeah, I think you got it.
Yes.
Cool, guys. So maybe we'll do a podcast at some point only about that part, because I believe it's really interesting, at least for us, because we are founders. Not sure about how interesting it is for others, although I think people usually like to go behind.
And I also think that founders should not be constrained to only startups, because you can be the founder of your own life. Like founders, just if you go back a bit, behaving like you have an option, like you have high agency, you're not an like effect, and something happens to you, taking that ownership and running with it and finding the best way. I think that's the essence, whatever you're doing, whether in life or just...
you know what's coming to my mind is the Invictus poem. You know, the captain of my life, something like that. So yeah. So guys, we were discussing about the founders mode. So we are founders, right?
Indeed.
It's written on my ID, in my passport, you know, founder. Let's talk about what we are building. Benjamin, you want to start?
A shameless plug?
Please.
So we'll repeat this 1,000 times every podcast, just to remind people, if they come here for the first time, what this is all about. With MultiversX, we're in fact building the most scalable, advanced, and secure blockchain supercomputer in the world.
Wow.
This is live today, not in a few years. And the fact that it's live, the fact that it's open source, the fact that many, many other builders and founders within the community are building on top, that's something really, really interesting, for which I think everything that we're going to cover in the conversations will be also very useful.
I'm always fascinating about, building something that can last even after, hopefully not soon, you die. And I believe what we've built and still building could go on indefinitely. Lucian, what we are building, what we've built, what we gonna build?
So 100% that the path where we're going and what we have executed so far is, I think, by far has exceeded everything what each of us alone could do, imagine, and reach a complexity that actually it has a beauty in it. Every complex engineering system has a very special beauty by looking at it as a whole. And 100% when it comes to maybe some updates where what we achieved actually with the latest releases of the protocol. The protocol, maybe just some more context for the new listeners. The protocol is the client or the software that runs the base computer that powers this supercomputer that we have built. And one of the latest updates was specialized on the staking phase 4, which had, I think only few people have understood its sole intention, that it was at the core a more fair reward distribution system, which actually that should have been addressed and has been addressed. And as a fact, actually, the average APY for delegators has increased actually by distributing the rewards, the power, and the security amongst more validators, more as I said, better economic incentives for the participants. And then also by doing that, actually, we have just increased the Nakamoto coefficient by 3 points.
What's that coefficient? If you can explain?
Yeah, sure. Nakamoto coefficient, I'll try
in plain
to
English.
So Nakamoto coefficient tells or express the amount of parties or participants that needs to collude into a specific malicious action in order to take out that system. So, for example, how many, to put it even more simple words, how many of node operators or entities or number of nodes together run by several entities should collude and be malicious in order to affect the availability of that system.
This has anything to do with being as decentralized as possible?
So you're saying essentially it's just a coefficient for decentralization.
Yes, but also explaining what decentralization specifically means. But so what we achieved, as I said, just to recap, we did increase the overall APYs and economic incentives for the entire delegators, which is by 1,000 times more open, allows more participants to new infrastructure projects.
When you say delegators, you mean validators or people that delegate to validators?
So delegators, people that delegate to validators, and then also it allows new validators to join the network without waiting the queue, which happened as well. And then also as a third point, also the entire security and decentralization of the network increased.
Got it.
That's maybe a very brief, very exciting updates. And then I'll give one more even crazier one. So while the system, this system works and it has been designed to be at that point of time the most advanced one. Of course, the technology have evolved and the competition, and that's a very good thing actually in technology where we come from, that it pushes the limits of what's capable or what's doable in this field. And by that, actually, we have proudly released some initial data on the upcoming goals that we want on specifically block time reduction and finality.
Why is that important?
So imagine that in any kind of database, for example, you go and click on whatever website, put in very simple words, you go and click on a website and you will expect a specific action to, or a response to your action, a confirmation that your action has been recorded in that database. And that as a result, basically, you can go to the next step. So that's how the system, this kind of supercomputer works as well. It had specific block time or.
This is similar with that funny thing I've seen at some point in the internet when you go and order a coffee and you pay with Bitcoin and you need to wait 10 minutes.
Exactly.
This would be
Best case scenario, 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So shorter block time in
Faster.
transactions are propagated, validated, and confirmed faster.
100%.
What was the block time before?
So,
and what's the next target?
Yeah, so there are to answer specific your question, the current block time is 6 seconds, and we have just ran some simulation on collecting how many signature are needed. So how much information is needed to be broadcasted given the current setup in order to reach minimum consensus on every single block, and that went crazy enough down to around 400 milliseconds. And we'll allow and put an extra 200 milliseconds buffer such that you can basically optimize even harder. So the aim where we're going, it was sub-second, but more specific, it goes down to 600 milliseconds block time, which is competing with, again, not only competing, but actually having a sharded system that ran parallelization that goes scales up and pushes the limits even harder.
I have more questions here, but
maybe just translating 2 points. So the only measure of decentralization for anyone listening is security. So whenever someone tries to take the network down, how easy is it for me to take it down? If it's one person, I'll take that person down. The network disappears. If it's many people, then it's much harder. That's the only value of decentralization, whether it's in a government, a network, or whatever we're building. And then to Lucian's point on the finality, this is actually for the simplest people, for the simple people, the users that listen, this is the response time when you're making a transaction. You don't care about almost anything else. Is it almost you blink and it's done? Then you're great.
So I'll add one more clarification. So there are two concepts here: is block time and then finality. So maybe for the engineers in house, I salute you, and I want to talk.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just to speak specifics here is actually block time is the time required to produce for the entire system to produce a block. That includes transaction and so forth, but and then the finality is the amount of confirmations needed, blocks produced afterwards, or time passed, or whatever unit of count it gives. So to every system that makes that piece of information final and immutable, irrevertible, and basically you can consider it at any security cost that it cannot be reverted, not be taken over, not can anything. If you look like you have in bank transfers, for example, settlements, this would be considered. You can have confirmation, pre-authorization of specific action, and then you want to wait for confirmation or a settlement. So to say where the money or the receipt that has been promised to just also confirm. And that I'm closing the loop.
Last point is, if people want to take just one thing away about MultiversX and the performance part, it's the sharded system, where sharding you find in nature. Everything nature has built is by default sharded, parallelized. You find in society, whether you look at highways and so forth, the things that have throughput and fluidly work, or in computation. This is the most default thing from which people start. The fact that you build something without sharding just means you're dead. You've not seen it yet. And so this is why we built Elrond first and MultiversX with sharding by default, to then attach some other performance metrics, criteria, and so forth. But it's great that this is live. This is not about the future. And people are building and choosing.
We are still alive,
yes,
hopefully, for a long time.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, before jumping to the next subject, maybe you tell everyone, what is the thing that you can talk and say we are building and gets you excited?
One of the most interesting things that keep me up at night, that I think we've shared in many, many respects, but without being very specific, is this interplay between blockchains and artificial intelligence. And seeing how fast AI advances, it almost, even without us building a product, without us stating anything about the product, it's so clear that having this all-powerful genie, in some sense, will require a counterforce.
And you mean here the genie being the AI and the counterforce being the blockchain?
Exactly. So I think that's, in a sense, the best use case that we'll see for blockchain. Without it, it's almost like, think about it, humans have had money before blockchains. They will continue to have money after blockchains, hopefully, exactly. But for AIs, crypto is native. It might be that cryptocurrency is actually the currency for AI, not for humans. It might be that AIs can work in this world only through blockchain, and they can also get the kill switch only to blockchain. I'll not dive more into this, but this I think gets me very, very excited, both about what could emerge out of this, but then also gets me to sit during the night and think what may happen if we don't have a solution for problems around that kind of thing.
I've seen we've seen actually the metrics a few days ago, and maybe putting some more meat or images on that is like when Neo, destroys Agent Smith in the first Matrix, and then Agent Smith, the AI in the Matrix, comes and multiply. And one thing I think the Oracle, not you, mentioned is that any action needs a reaction, and this is exactly the counter for Neo or for the AI was anyway. We've discussed what we are building. Let's jump to something more interesting.
Did you want to add something on that?
I mean, we are building a shitload of cool stuff. I can take over and do.
So we are Neo or Agent Smith? We are Neo, right?
We are Neo.
Trinity, 1, 2, 3.
Yes. We are Neo. One of us is Neo, and together we are Trinity.
Guys, let's go to something a little bit different, right? So let's talk about what's hot, not the weather, in this world. And I think last time we touched a little bit about Trump. Mm-hmm. And of course, also the, let's say, biggest global macro context. And I want to hear a little bit more. What do you think about Trump and his view on crypto? And does he have any view on AI as well?
I'll just take over first. So funny enough, Trump has been associated, launch or an association related to Trump, directed related to Trump, launch a wrapper of Aave, a lending platform, which was pretty poorly coded at the beginning. It was quite criticized. And then...
when was this?
I think it's last week or this week. So it's very, very new. It's actually, last week. So very hot, and then there was a lot of debates first from the politics standpoint. What's the point of this? Like, does he wants to if he wins, definitely he's gonna fire Gary Gensler. If he doesn't win, then basically he's just putting himself in front of in front of him and giving him a bite.
And that guy being the
head of SEC.
Okay.
And then Yeah, that's the political game, and then also from the technical point of view, actually they just posted an entire thread where they said, hey, look, we just hired actually the best security auditing companies, and we're trying to do here solid work. And if you want to support or try to support Trump presidency and the campaigns around it, here's a way where you can use a DeFi and put your ETH to work, and portion of that was sales support actually. So it's a custom front end. There are some wrappers on top of the contracts, but funny enough, that's my first update about Trump. So I'm very curious about the other parts as well.
Before going to Beni, I have a question. Maybe I might be wrong, but I heard something that his sons.
His sons. So it's not him that's launching this. It would probably not be him, even if it were him. This is how it's positioned. But his sons mentioned that they're going to launch something and all of that.
What about Trump, Benjamin? Anything new from what we might touched last episode?
Yeah, so you almost see every day something mentioned around what he's going to do. He has doubled down, tripled down 10 times that he aims to make the US the capital of crypto, blockchain, and startups that would build in this space. I've seen also some very focused discussions on tax optimizations, deregulation, and a lot of conversations that would be super business friendly generally. You'd want something like that, irrespective of the political spectrum and so forth. Whoever would do that, I would say respect. Of course, these things always happen with a specific aim. Like, it's clear that there's an outcome, but I think you should be very smart, especially in this respect, because there is a moment in time with some communities that you can leverage to the maximum to really make a change. And I do believe that Trump has understood this better than anyone else, that he can ride the wave, he can bring this to the mainstream, and if it works, it will be a much, much better space for not only business, but specifically the blockchain space.
Well, I'm usually
skeptical.
Yes, I'm usually skeptical on the promises politicians make during pre-elections. But let's see. It's anyway. It's a best, let's say, scenario, at least saying that. What actually is going to do? It's going to
remains to be seen. But at least I love that the space is in the conversation. It's not a side note as it was, let's say, years back. And I also love that it's not only him. The fact that you can outline these points very sharply means that someone is doing research. Someone understands what doesn't work, what's working, and then understands also where the money is. Because at the end of the day, he raised a lot of money for the campaigns and understands that this is a space that really has hunger.
I hope there's still going to be money until he becomes president. Last week. Otherwise we'll say where the money was.
Yeah. It's difficult, but
show me the money.
Yeah.
And what's money, by the way? What's real?
Whoever survives until that point.
By the way, for the ones that quite on the other side, I heard that there has been some rumors that there were some intentions of putting taxation on unrealized profits. I'm not sure if you follow that one as well. So if that's
in US,
in US, so even for unrealized profits. So that's even crazier. That
you can go. I mean, you can go also in very, very, very wrong directions as a politician, right? So I'm definitely skeptical, and everything should be taken with a grain of salt, and people should think for themselves. But when you see the counterpoints, At least that's, at the end of the day, that's the thing on which you campaign, and the people get you elected or not.
And the good thing is, and that Trump seems that sometimes, not all the time, or listen to some of his staff or
100%.
consultants or advisors, which is a good sign.
He has the founder's mode mentality, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, more than most people. I think this is a very interesting counterpoint, because to contrast the managerial class, there's the managerial class and the sort of startup class, and it's like thinking about the founding fathers, the way they thought about the Constitution, the way they took it upon themselves to design these rules and so forth, and then how people think today, like literally degrading the thought, degrading the actions and so forth. The question is, can someone raise the standards a bit and not just do political, let's say, games, but also get some stuff done, get in the trenches, meet with the biggest other counterparties in the world, like meet with Putin, meet with some other countries, and then have a word to say, right? And I think at the end of the day, it's crucial that for the big country, the biggest country in the world, the most important country in the world, if you don't have a strong lead, then it's super difficult.
Yeah, just jumping a little bit to a different subject. There was a news last week about the head of CIA or FBI and the one MI6 being together in a conference. And of course, they discuss about Ukraine, Russia and stuff like that. But one thing that they mention is how their AI strategy takes into the consideration the China and the claim that China is going to make being one of the most important country in the world in the next 5, 10, 20 years from a military point of view and also from an economical and maybe technology point of view. So jumping a little bit to the AI space, what's going on there?
I mean, there are probably a few points, and I'm sure you guys can share some of your thoughts. But the most important conversation in the space right now is, in some sense, Project Strawberry from
what's that?
OpenAI. So OpenAI has been rumored to have the GPT-5 version, which was finalized to be trained for more than like 3 or 6 months. And it was rumored to go out initially around June. Everyone was super excited and all of that. And then for whatever reason, everything stopped. Now, the best I see plausible explanation is that this is so significantly better that it will change the election outcome. So you can control the election somehow right now. You have a game you understand. And then if I give you this tool that can change the game and reset every advantage you had.
But if both adversaries are going to use the same tool?
it's very what these people think is it creating uncertainty, risk, and it might open up some angles that I cannot adapt fast enough. It definitely means that you could do it, but does it make it more uncertain than what I understand right now? It's almost, right now I have just TV and social media, let's say. I'm just minimizing the conversation. Will it be harder if I have this crazy version of an AI that gives me some superpowers?
What kind of superpower? Let's double click on it. Like, walk me through, like, assuming that we have GPT-4o and Cambridge Analytica, like I could rig, and the system has been rigged before any GPT like or a meaningful AI implementation. Like Cambridge Analytica was pretty much machine learning and a distribution game, right? So walk me through what, given that actually applying what we have today, it's hard to think that it is not a game like that. However, what do you see? Curious. Like what do you see, guys? I'm very curious. Like what would be a specific at least one scenario that
Sure.
you imagine.
Imagine that the version that you get is 100x better at reasoning around everything. Reasoning around strategy. You want to win. How do you win?
But I think it's good enough to win. It can do a lot.
Question is, can it be 100 better?
I
Not
can
good enough.
translate in a more,
Yes.
let's say,
Sure.
easier to understand way. And it's regarding, if you remember, the Cambridge Analytica.
Sure.
You know, the idea is usually, from how much I can understand this part, is usually in these elections, you focus on the undecided, let's say, person. Because as religion, usually political views are very hard to change. And what they did at some point by using, Facebook and ads, and of course, Facebook groups and the tools usually used in advertising was actually targeting the undecided part and trying to flip the balance towards a specific one. Now, the idea, I believe, one thing that AI could help is to scale really, really fast and target so many people and generate enough kind of, content, sharing some kind of news that from a psychological, emotional and stuff like that can, let's say, statistically or stuff like that, change a little bit the view to be more in favor of that stuff, that then that undecided people will be more, let's say, keen on agreeing with that kind of opinion.
Sure.
And it's very, very, scary that stuff. Because it's not obvious. It's not obvious.
The simplest way of restating what you said, without going into the much more advanced, because I think there are more advanced ways, is one, can you very precisely have a map of who is decided, who is undecided, and then target the undecided? This is one. This you have. The question is, can I target them based on their interest with a persuasion skill that is far above anything anyone at this table could do or Trump could do, such that I move them only so much at scale to just decide the election? This is the simplest thing. Can I do it even more advanced where I personalize it based on not only their interest, but their family, whatever they have consumed during the last week? Doing Inception-like games just a bit next level such that this is decided. This is not very far or advanced. Would it change the election? I guess so.
It could. It's. I think the theory is like 10 years old.
Yes.
Of course, AI can bring even more insights. The idea is now some things you can do it really, really fast.
So precision, persuasion, and shipping at scale. Those are some of the simplest things, I would say.
I'm very, very much concerned about the part that it's almost naive to think that whatever technology was used years ago and knowledge was in place years ago, even if they dissolved the company, right? So and they did not brainwashed and did other methods to eliminate or remove the knowledge that has been created. And on the other side, think about even crazier that UK is not part of the EU anymore and not being part or directly connected. So that's one of the bets that, politically speaking, it was perhaps. And by the way, it is based on what I know also the router of the most relevant router of fiber channel that goes through US, connects to the two continents. So that's why Ireland data centers and so forth were a lot of located, and then there's the nodes. So it goes a bit into the conspiracy part. I don't like that, and I don't think it's helpful in any way. However, it takes a part of naivety not to think about that, and it's hard not to consider that whatever has been produced at that time and has been enforced. We, for example, Europe has as a post-mortem to that event, we had the GDPR and all that kind of stuff, and then on the same time, UK, the place where this kind of technology was operated from, is not part of Europe anymore, explicitly. Fine enough, yeah, economically speaking. But if you think, does this have the potential power to increase monetary policy or economic power to UK more than any other country from Europe? If eventually just kept the data more. So does it allow US to run or route any kind of filtering, espionage, and so forth? Think about, like, just break a second here and think about how many times are you targeted as a European citizen on very specific ads content that you have not, where you have not allowed camera, you have not allowed microphone from any other app, and it on the same time you actually are protected under the European general data protection. I think it's, I'm trying to see how or if there's any version of the internet where you can still get back and be in any control of everything.
But maybe coming back to the point of GPT-5, a good way of understanding this in plain English was the model that OpenAI shared with the world, where they said, let's think about reasoning and try to not define it in technical terms, but define it as roles that people generally take on a hierarchy. Like you have a normal worker that is, let's say, managerial work. Then you have an innovator. Why are those fundamentally different? One works with a known variable, the other works with extrapolating. Like you're trying to map something that is not understood, known, and so forth. And then you have the scientist. The scientist tries to not only extrapolate, but push the boundaries and try to discover something that is not yet known and so forth. This is just a very simple hierarchy. You can immediately see, I can attack the election and say persuasion. I just manage it simply better. Can I design a better statistical model to actually at scale with one drop reach the maximum return with the least effort? Can I do it with 1% of the cost that would take someone else and so forth? But then I can go one step even further. Suppose that I'm going in the scientist role. Like, could I design a kind of new energy system for the US or China to take something that is more advanced than the current election, to create some weapons that are much more advanced than what we have right now? Those are things that are generally very, very important. And I don't think people understand how much can be done beyond what they see right now. Because people think that an AI will stop at human level. But that's I think, the thing that doesn't stop there.
Lucian?
No. Nothing to add first.
Yeah, I remember,
your
one book that we read a few years ago, The Age of the, how was it called? Surveillance capitalism, something like that. And by the way, mentioning that when you see ads, that you feel like very strange to see without having the mic on the camera. I remember one thing, and this was like 10 years before, was something like that, with an accuracy of, 70-80%, just by seeing the last 10 likes on Facebook. They could tell you if you are pro or against, vaccines, if you're going to vote with that guy or the other guy. So, and this is like 10 years old kind of news. So there are also a lot of extrapolation or
interpolation is in the field,
or there is a term, I don't know. Yeah.
Have you, by the way, just as a side note, have you watched the story, the founder story from behind WhatsApp? And that did you know that actually the same founder actually from Signal are actually the founders from WhatsApp? That they actually exited. They turned out and let 80 billion, I think, 18 billion a deal or even more from Facebook, and quit because they could not maintain or live with the idea. Just have a look at the story and how it actually closes the loop with it. It was Facebook, then Facebook Messenger and so forth. Then it was Instagram, and then WhatsApp. What was actually the one closing the loop with the over phone number. So it was actually the antitrust law if you look specifically, they at the drafting of the contract, they were supposed to file for antitrust and then go through the entire merging process with the regulators. And they specifically said that it will never be possible to merge those technologies. However,
in US or only Europe?
In US. And then they were fined afterwards, of course, but the fine was so meaningless given the amount of the data source and data collection when it comes to data collection. I strongly encourage you to look at the story. It's shocking. And then I think down the pod will also have the other interesting topic when it comes to at the limit of crypto AI and the messengers, maybe. Very curious to pick up the thread as well. But going back, I don't want to hijack the part.
No, if we were touching WhatsApp, do you want guys to discuss a little bit about Telegram and what happened?
Yeah, so I do believe that this is an important precedent.
Let's give a little bit details what happened. Maybe not everyone knows.
So what happened was that Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, arrived in Paris, and upon arrival, he got detained and then was sent to questioning prison or something like that in an intermediary state before being sentenced or something like that. Then there came out, there was an entire scandal all over the world about what
was the reason behind, at least the public one or the official one, for detaining him?
They alleged that there were more than 10 crimes that were brought against him. And then there was a list of what was supposedly the wrongdoing that he did.
But I think the main one was that he was not
moderating,
giving the details or stuff like data to the
translation of that, and maybe you want to add on it.
Definitely. So there are three steps. So first, it is in any company, for example, from even in Romania or other companies, basically there's a different or separation between the power from the state and the privately held companies. And for example, I'll just step back here and go through some cases that I know from local authorities, where they went to, for example, network carriers asking, hey, I want a specific agency from a country, went to the network carriers and say, hey, give me the data, give me some of the data or account location, whatever of this account. And the company could and is allowed to say, first, go fuck yourself. No, I'm not. And it happened many times. But and here is the point where basically why the company is allowed to say that, because it should be a clear reasoning and mandate, which basically every state has a judge which is fighting for you as a citizen and actually protecting you exactly against that. Like you should do and go through that judge is a judge that protects every citizen, and then you as an agency need to showcase specific mandate or bad acting, not doubting, but a specific bad intended or crime that you can prove that it has been tied up to that point, and then the company is forced, right? So that's the process. And then, of course, while doing that, there's the second with the political interest and so forth, and especially on the messaging part, with where the founder is coming from, Russia. And then,
Russia or Ukraine?
Russia, and allegedly saying that has not been or he left Russia a while ago, moved to Dubai or UAE, and then also allegedly saying that he did not met with Putin for.
But they were on the same city at some point a few weeks ago.
Exactly, and so that part, then that gives.
There's a lot of speculation, definitely.
100%. What I'm saying here was specifically not collaborating actually with the authorities on that part, and then saying it more correctly as a European Union or from the European region, saying that it did not respect the EU law of moderation. And moderation means that basically you should apply specific filters on not when it comes even from information or disinformation actually against the European citizens. And even crazier part, but maybe when you want to touch a bit to this point, and then I have a more even more nasty part, I would say, to the story.
I think maybe just a little bit to say it in my own words and translate and correct me if I'm wrong. The idea is he did not, let's say, response to the, let's say, official legal requests from that, and also is also a French citizen, as far as I know. Yes. And then, of course, there is a lot of speculations regarding being, as you mentioned, a Russian, the fact that the war in Ukraine and a lot of official news or bloggers in Russia are using Telegram. Ukraine is not using Telegram for that. So there is a lot of speculations around that. But maybe one thing that we should touch, if you guys want, is the precedent that this creates. Because I remember a few years ago regarding the iOS and iPhones, that some, FBI got it from, some guys doing some wrong stuff, and they requested Apple to unlock the encryption, and they said something that you should, as a company, have a backdoor behind so they can unlock the phone. And Apple said, no, even us, we cannot do that. The funny thing, after 2 weeks, FBI stopped asking. Maybe they found a way, or they found a way. But I think what I want to say is here, if you don't want to share or you want to be private, you should not have a way of doing that. And one thing that maybe people are not aware is the fact that all the Telegram groups and everything is not encrypted. The only encryption on Telegram works through something called secret chat that is device to device. Everything else is on their servers. And it's
that's crazy. That's
crazy. A lot of information. How many users Telegram?
1 billion. So they're close to 1 billion. But however, I'll just do a step back, and there's a specific feature that has been so. Besides all the speculation and political parts and so forth, he was accused that he was complicit, or how do you say, complicit to many of the crimes that have happened in many fields, like a lot of them, just because he did not help and collaborated with authorities, giving the data, stopping, and so or helping them moderate this kind of actions. But the next specific feature actually came to my eyes that has been disabled the same day Pavel has been released. There was a specific feature,
very known,
not known. So I'll mention about that and the amount of that. So there was a specific feature with so-called people nearby, where you could there was bots and marketplaces developed around that, where you could actually find everything. I won't go through what kind of details, but you could use anonymous payment methods, all kind of that, and then also around that actually that was actually one of the biggest problems that effectively, at least I've seen, being changed on the app the Pavel or as a condition Pavel to be released. And I also saw some numbers. So that was kind of a darknet. Similar to darknet experience, you have you could use pseudonyms, you could use other Telegram handlers and do all kind of crazy stuff. However, I also had an idea about the size of the market. So because it was a market, and the size was, they were saying, hey, there's only 0.1% of the users, but that translates to 1 million users. So 1 million users worldwide were using all kind of services, everything, and it's an understatement. Your imagination is kind of allows you to go through everything. But that was also a part where I think it's common sense why you don't want to have this kind of services available, especially in Europe and so forth. Other than that, I think everything just is disputable. But I think there's only one less more funny thing. I like the part where the UAE actually sent a note to the French authorities saying that they have sent services from the UAE embassy, and that they should not block at any point the services offered to represent Pavel inside France. And if they don't, just as a first warning, they canceled the $80 billion contract that France should deliver on some jets, and said that keep going. First 12 hours, keep going. You'll see the pain. And that was actually a big chunk of the whatever the state was actually cashing in from.
And this is what we know publicly. Probably there are a lot of stuff.
100%. So that's only just some of the interesting stories around that.
Benjamin, coming back to the precedent of this, do you believe this is a dangerous one?
Yeah. So
and why?
The key point here is this: whenever the founder and CEO of a company is just taken like that without a clear reasoning shared before, and without him having the chance to actually respond, defend himself, and so forth, that is very dangerous. Now, whatever happens, you definitely want to see what's the alleged crime that the guy may have been part of or complicit into, and what's the conversation that we want to have around privacy, around a kind of capacity to censor or not, use the platforms to censor, because we've seen some very, very, very concerning examples in Europe where, for instance, in the UK, during the last month, people went to prison because of something that they wrote on Facebook or Twitter or X. And it was not anything special. So it wasn't something that you would consider in any other country problematic. And they went to prison for that. And you also had several other precedents where Elon Musk got the notice from one of the head of EU Commission, a guy with which he met. And then the guy stepped so far outside of his responsibilities that he tried to shut down X in Europe just as a kind of warning. And then they let him go. The guy was actually fired from his position just because it was Musk. Now imagine it were anyone else beside Musk. They would have canceled him, censored the platform. And I think the discussion here is about freedom, about privacy, about censorship, and the way or the need to know something. If you cannot express yourself anymore, if there's no freedom of expression, then things go very south from that standpoint.
Two things, but I'm gonna go with the freedom of expression. Do you believe that, okay, as Musk is saying, this is, you can say whatever you want, this is regarding X and Twitter. Do you believe that the freedom of there is no limit to the freedom of speech?
No,
to give an example, if you say something that is not true and you have 200 million followers, should you
be liable
or not?
Yeah. So the way Musk frames it is, I think, very sensible and reasonable. Namely, that you should have freedom of expression that is according to the rule of law in that particular region you're in. Because if you're trying to override that, they will cancel, they would shut down completely. And then if you root it in the rule of law according to that region, at least you make it very sensible. Now, are there extremes? Is North Korea included in this? I mean, that's an entire conversation of how you can share that to the people outside of the regions where you serve people, but at least it's a good starting point. You can definitely add a better version on top. Whatever you can improve on that is good, but it's definitely a good starting point to have.
Coming back a little bit to the Telegram, and one argument I've seen on the internet regarding a dangerous precedent is why didn't they arrested Zuckerberg in US? Because on Facebook there is a lot of groups, crimes,
child trafficking
and stuff like that, and he should be liable because he's allowing.
He said sorry.
No. This is the precise point, because if you're starting to do this, then we're going to see many people being liable for something that they cannot be. This is the distinction between you as a private person and then a company that has a limited liability on some things that are very clear from a legal standpoint.
Cool, guys. Let's.
I do have two points. When it comes to free speech, I do remember there were some very interesting cases, such, for example, I'm a journalist, and on my own, basically, I will, on my own, I will just write a review, an analysis around your company, an in-depth analysis that I have privately ran over your entire group of companies which are public traded. And then I'm specifically sharing it and targeting a lot of short sellers, where at the end, I'm just a journalist and I'm allowed to give my thoughts and my opinion because it is my sole job to be freely speak about whatever my mind is. And then at the end, I'm managing to manipulate and twist a view about whatever you're building, because at the end, it's an ego problem. It's maybe a ignorance problem that it's an pure intention that I want to destroy you. So where's the limit to that? Like, how do you see? This is a very good. Like I remember it was. And I also know at least some proposed topics, but I do believe with them that would happen, and it with the.
Can you come with a specific example on this?
Yeah, so there were many cases where actually the journalists just published a lot of stuff. So there was also funny stories with the Wirecard, if you remember, where I think the Department of Justice of Economy from Germany went public and asked journalists not to publish any more reports about their companies because they're bad intended and they are not true. If you remember any of that, there's a very good documentary about that. But I'm just twisting that story for a second and saying I'm doing that. I can do that. I can, like, especially in crypto, I can push stories. And with AI power, I will be able to just publicly say, claim, almost prove, and write an unlimited amount of data, generate an unlimited amount of data about something that never happened. So very curious how you see that, and how does it comes and ties up to the public speech, actually, free speech.
The point here with one very specific example is that people have tried, for instance, to take Tesla down for years, shorting it, dancing on the grave, like doing everything they can to somehow get it down. And there was indeed a group of people that were intentionally not only trying to short it, but creating narratives about how this will explode, how Musk will die, how he's a fraudster, and all of that. And it went for years. Now, normally you have some regulation, at least on the stock markets, that prevents people intentionally trying to manipulate the market. So you can sue them, you can do some stuff, but typically this has not worked. Musk himself has not been able to defend himself around this against these people in that situation, and the only way he fought them was to bring in more growth, to short the short sellers. He actually launched, this was the funniest thing, he, as a prank, launched a bunch of shorts that he sold through which he shorted the short sellers. This was the coolest trick in the book, and this is how he defended himself. Now, is this a problem? Are the media people for now misaligned because they want clicks? They will write everything that drives clicks. And is this something that is very concerning, especially with the tools that we have right now? Fully agree. What's the space between making this claim and then stating that no one should write things because we want to censor them, and the state doing that? That's an entire conversation of how you might engage and all of that.
Kind of definition of freedom is my freedom is limited once your freedom is affected by what I'm doing.
Broken.
So you know
Sure.
this should be a way of saying I can say whatever I want as long as what I say or do is not limiting your own freedom. Of course, this is a very, let's say, gray or not a lot of debate and a lot of philosophical and moral things to add here. If you want to jump to the next part, or you want to add something, Lucian, very shortly.
No, I think we're good. I think it was well long enough to debate it. The point here was that, and then 30 seconds was specifically that there should be explicitly on the auditing reports when it comes to a publicly listed company. Generally speaking, there should be a way of trace back to the source of the data, and specifically be able to charge that specific person if it was bad intended and generating of wrong data, bad data, or spreading misinformation with a specific act. And especially when it comes to common goods, public traded companies, and so forth. And I'm very much agreeing to that. I think everybody should be kept pretty much accountable as much as possible when it comes to just giving opinion about specific.
I recommend you to see the Dump Money movie.
Yeah.
Regarding GameStop and shorters and stuff
very
like
good
that.
One.
But I think there is also a little bit things that are, let's say, a little bit unbalanced, because people from a traded company are limited on what they can say, but people that are not inside a company, there is the freedom of speech and other stuff that they can make claims, of course, with some disclaimers or the way you say it, and it's a little bit different. But please.
Yeah. I'm just going through the next point because it seems like that it's very, very interesting when it comes to information, spread of information, and market politics and markets, which actually is a Polymarket. Have you guys looked into anything related to Polymarkets?
What's that? Polymarket? What do you mean?
Prediction market.
Prediction markets, but there's a specific implementation of an economic model that with sufficient liquidity can predict and have a better incentive and model to show basically a potential outcome of a bet or a threat. But if you want to
No, it's betting, but in reverse, in some sense, much more early, right? It's if you think about the market, what is the market? What is a price? Price is the information and data integrated in a way to actually predict something. And the prediction market is something that you take where you say before an action is happening, whereas the bet you do and it's either on or before. The prediction market is a much more intellectual way of playing the casino.
But you need a firepower, you said, right?
Yeah.
support that claim. You know that say what was the golden rule? Those who have the gold make the rules. Something like that. Yeah, this is the golden.
Good.
Yeah, so it's a market for predictions where people put their money where their mouth is. The simpler you do it, the larger the liquidity, the more predictive power it has.
So there has been this kind of comparison to the polls or polling done for prior to election and how this kind of campaign is being run, and how inefficient actually is being done, and how that could be controlled, and actually how can that actually manipulate the source of information or the decision as well that you're going to take if you know that your hero is not being able to win at all, right? So if I can make or plan the perception in and rig that as well, I can almost actually make it such that there's no chance for you to win. Right, and then with this kind of new game, there is more than just an opinion. It's basically a specific incentive put at work, like a bet, right? So, yeah.
And the impact of this is you can think about the world before Cambridge Analytica in precision of targeting, and then after. Of course, you get even better versions, but that's the comparison between the normal polling that you have, that is very raw, very imprecise. Gives you good sentiment, directional sentiment, but can trick you in many ways. And then the predictor market is just a much more real-time way of seeing this, pricing in the signals of information that you generally have.
Guys, do you know we are talking for more than 1 hour and we didn't say or didn't talk about blockchain?
Yeah, maybe we should change that.
We should, right?
I was bringing up.
Or indirectly, not directly. So let's jump a little bit about what we pretend we know more. Let's talk about the blockchain. And do you believe blockchain space is in a crisis, an identity crisis? Is still a solution looking for a problem?
Well, there are several points to this that you could make, but there's definitely a sentiment right now that people have had enough meme coins, in some sense, enough BS, and they want at least one really big, substantial use case that you could build an empire on. There's this great debate happening around what that might be. There are some use cases that are very good, very significant, very large, like that of stablecoins. But there's also a great debate on what else could power the world and in what time frame. Because the idea is always not if this is valuable or interesting, but in what time frame and in what order. So the short version is people have had enough of the maybe smaller games and now are in a crisis where they're trying to think, is this really all that we've built this new technology for? Is there more to it? And I totally believe there is a lot more.
Since you're mentioning use cases, what else besides stablecoins do you think could be something interesting to
You're ruining my speech.
I didn't say this.
I have funny enough. I have happened that I have spent a bunch of hours looking into more fundamentals around stablecoins and what are the global or the next paths when it comes also to the most relevant ones, to the general landscape of stablecoins. Does it make sense to invest or do anything on that? How does, generally speaking, the biggest use case as an outcome? Where do we go from here? Like, first, instead of I'm always at the point where wherever something works, I'm definitely looking for something else, but also looking is there more of this? Mm-hmm. Is there? Would it go even further?
Is there?
Yeah. So there's basically, maybe going back a bit to the previous topic with the politics. There are kind of two two scenarios. One, a more pessimistic one, where there will be not till the end of the year a bill passed. So there are kind of few slots where a bill can be passed. A bill regarding regulating stablecoin issuing within the U.S. jurisdiction.
Okay.
Which actually, in order to do that, you need to draft it and also schedule it. There are a few trains that runs through the Senate that could approve this and give a vote. So there are only two this year. Two, from what I heard, it's a very specific. I think 2 or 3 major ones that there's until the end of the year, and then otherwise there will be like a bunch of them next year once Trump, right? So just to give a landscape, then there is a chance to get something this year around stable coins, and then the second one would be once Trump goes, if it goes, definitely if it goes, then that will be one of the first things that will be approved. Now, very specific on their bet and their thesis was, generally speaking, how do they sell this kind of bill? Why is this relevant? And it was specifically saying that U.S. economy has a major problem at this point, or very soon once the inflation would go down, that basically the appetite for buying and holding the U.S. Treasury bills will lower by a lot, and especially knowing that there's a business, the stablecoin business operates explicitly for an entity that buys those. Like you deposit cash, just breaking it down in simple words, you deposit cash, the company actually while holding that funds basically is allowed to buy US Treasury bonds or specific financial objects while actually is printing this kind of representative unit of account of whatever they keep in the Treasury. And now basically most of the funds were deployed, like 80% I guess from everything what is as backed stablecoin backed currencies. Have been in Treasury, U.S. Treasury, and now with that demand actually lowering and the risk appetite, like the risk factor remaining the same, pretty much is a no-brainer that pretty much nobody will want to keep holding Treasury bills while there is no clear regulation around that. Now, what's the opposite of that? So the goal of U.S. currency was to become the world reserve currency. Now, if you look and zoom out of what offers actually stable coins, that the people in Africa or Argentina could actually use and leverage blockchain technology that actually where they can be protected from their inflation of their native currency and use the US dollar on top of that actually goes exactly on the base purpose of the dollar, and the government should by any means try to regulate that. So that's one of the very bullish outcomes. And then there's another even crazier for us as a society, another play, such that if you look at the monetary policy, what happens if we don't do that? If we end up like what's the opposite take here? And it is the basically stablecoin versus CBDC, right? And breaking it down to very specific, like if we look at the stablecoin and look at compare it to the current monetary system, there are kind of two tier systems where you have the central bank putting a part of money in circulation, where then that money, the central bank comes with a specific set of regulation that the commercial banks should apply and respect, and then the commercial banks are in charge of putting another set of the money flow in circulation to the end customers. Now, remove the part like if we look at how stablecoins are being issued, basically and there's a clear bill for that, we actually empower companies, privately held organizations to do exactly the same process. Even banks could just join and redo the same process. But otherwise, removing that, then basically the play would be central bank digital coins. So that would mean exactly the part where I told you and we discussed earlier about the privacy and sovereignty of you as an individual, that the government should not be able to just go and ask for the data. It should have a clear purpose why and a reasoning why you should be blocked, why your assets or everything you held should be freezed. While if we remove this kind of barrier and separation for us as individuals, that's the fast track where we're going to go to hell, and whatever we're gonna say that hey China bad and so forth, that's the play, that's where we're gonna end up as a society. So that's my a bit of the angle why I'm very bullish now, and even crazier than that, and the composability about that. I think it will be crazy, even crazier. So,
I think it's a lot about control and privacy here. People maybe are not aware, but like before Visa and MasterCard, people were using cash, and was actually a very, let's say, not optimal way to know what people are buying or spending on. Now everything is with card, through bank accounts, everything is traceable and stuff like that. Blockchain tried a little bit to give back, the power back to the people, because although blockchain is public and everything, it gives you a little bit more privacy than paying with a card. Now coming back to the stable coins is also, and this is pretty similar with the Telegram discussion, is who has access to that data, and how me as a government or official, whatever, can make a claim and say, well, I need this money, maybe from North Korea, or maybe it's just a political opponent or whatever. I want more information, or I need that assets frozen or stuff like that. Yeah. So maybe I'll change my answer.
Yes.
I would go to Silicon Valley.
Okay. I'm going, by the way, so I'm going, so to move to the next point, I'm going next week to Singapore, or very soon, and then, of course, to Silicon Valley as well.
I'm going to Silicon Valley before, and I'll let you guys know how it's going to be. What other interesting questions do you have on this side?
I have a lot of questions, but let's keep things focused. Let's talk about, as an ending note, let's give some updates about MultiversX, xDay, what is going to happen in Munich at the end of October, what is going to happen in Korea, I think, next year, and maybe even talking a little bit, we mentioned in the last podcast US.
100%. Look, the idea with xDay,
with Luke, you mentioned.
Yes. Luke,
Lucian is part of the solution.
Yes,
Lucian and Luke is part of the.
Look at me.
Yes,
I'm sexy.
So xDay is changing, branching out. In fact, we're going to do two things. xDay Global, we call the, let's say, big event where we're trying to connect really key people in a very meaningful way, set a platform for new technologies, startups, ideas, and so forth. This we're going to do in 2025 because we want to focus, because we want to do some things that matter to our community that are much more of a priority right now. What's the priority right now then? The priority is to bring the builders together, bring the community together, make sure that we rally them during these difficult times, whether it's market conditions, whether it's other things that are really tricky, and we sit and find a good step forward. This is why xDay Satellite Munich seems like a great step that achieves these priorities and enables us to think much more about what we should do at xDay Global and align things in such a way that once we do that, it really makes sense. So I'll also add the point that we've discussed a lot about maybe the human side, some of the market conditions, some of the macro conditions and so forth, and a lot about the network and protocol and everything we built. And there's a great number of people around the world that are building on this network, relying on it to work, trying to make a business work. And sometimes it's them that we share these lessons, ideas, even crazy jokes.
But we want more builders.
Yes, but it's for them that we share, precisely for them to find maybe some useful ideas, to know that they're not alone, to know that there's always a way. And things have never been simple. They will not be simple, especially when you're building something like this. But we're here to help. We're here to share. We're here to even make mistakes and learn from them. And once we do that, at the end of the day, if we can wake up and make just one good step in the right direction, then the world will be a bit better. It doesn't need to change necessarily every day. Ideally, it changes at some point in a really good way. But at least this is, let's say, a good pulse check. Because builders have grown, community has leveled up, discussions are much more interesting, and there's a lot of room still to improve everything we're doing.
I do have one note though with respect to xDay Munich. It funny enough happens to be while Oktoberfest, so I'll invite everybody that joins the xDay Munich to bring their leather hose, leather pants, and some proper equipment if they have, and do a round trip to Oktoberfest as well.
Maybe the next podcast we should also do in German fully.
Lucian. Jawohl.
What do you?
Schnitzel.
Any ideas you would have? Like you would say you're either excited about or think about either related to the ecosystem or xDay?
I'm always excited about xDay. I'm really disappointed that it's not going to be at the end of October, but it's going to be a satellite, and the moon is very important for Earth, so the satellite is important for the global one. So I'll survive. I'm a survivor.
Okay. Any conclusions or ending notes or thoughts that you guys would have?
Maybe US, anything to add on the USA part?
Yes. So let me state it this way. We've had discussions, and at the end of the day, the question will be, and we'll probably do an entire conversation on that. How do we win? What does it take to take things to the next level? Focus is definitely crucial and is necessary. There's no way. But then what other variables could we change? And then everything we're doing magically has 100x or 1000x more value. Well, definitely, if you think about it, if we would be in the US, magically things somehow would be valued much more. We would have stumbled into more, let's say, interesting people that build on these things and so forth. And it's also the reason why I think US might work now or during the next period as a timing. Because again, you might be directionally correct about the US. US is cool. But if you end up in prison just because you build something in the blockchain space, then it's not so cool to be in the US. So if there's a new president and there's a new regulation and the technology just finally finds a space to be a fit, then we want to be in the US. In what way? Well, first, we're going to have some visits, conversations, and so forth to discuss with investors, to discuss with other builders, to open some things up. That's just not necessarily trying to say, hey, we're going to do this, just sharing a bit of our thinking, because we've been discussing this for a long time. I just think that right now, it's the thing to just do. Go explore.
How is this going to be different? Because we've been to US.
Sure.
We were in Miami.
Visit. Yeah.
I've been to Silicon Valley 10 years ago.
Sure.
We've been together.
Sure.
What would this time be different?
Well, if I were to summarize it, if regulation is there, then the technology to be deployed in the US requires different caliber of resources. I can have the best strategy in the world on how to win. Question is, can I put 100 million to press that red button and deploy it at scale or not. If I cannot, then it's a big problem. This is why US cannot be played unless you get some of the best investors to also be part of the journey, some of the best partners to be part of the journey. And so US is a question not of wanting or not wanting to be there, but understanding that it is the big league, and in the big league, there are other rules to play. And this is why we're having all these conversations also with investors and changing the gameplay.
I'll let you in a second. Just adding here one thing is during the Web 1 and Web 2 era, there was this idea is you win US and then magically and sometimes even for free, you win almost the rest of the world. And these are so many examples. Facebook, that at some point I remember in Romania got like, I don't know, half of the internet users without any translating in Romanian ads, having, I don't know, an office or something like that. And it seems that might apply even for Web 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever.
Very, very reasonable indeed. And then also when it comes to resources and the reasoning why sometimes the resources don't go to other places that easily from US, from spaces like the US. I've been thinking a lot, and many times came to the conclusion that at the end of the day, those businesses do have a lot of risk appetite, but fighting into a jurisdiction, most of the time that doesn't make sense for them to take and go and fight in Romania, Bulgaria, and any other country when they are clear plays where they can account and see or foresee any risk that it comes to the legal structure, vehicles, and not ending up in jail when it comes to from pure operational and legal perspective. That's one thing that it should not be discounted. And most of the time I do see that given depends on the risk appetite, this is at some point, even though you start.
This might be the first point for them. So actually,
that's what I'm saying is I'm not trying to make it a big deal only because
Sure.
But you could start with some sort of capital. You can start like we did with pretty much and almost nothing. But at some point, it takes a way larger force to convince them to go the extra risk, maybe, to that it is in some sort good argumented in within to go that path.
Mark Andreessen had a really good metaphor here where he said you should think about the onion risk model from an investor perspective, where you have many shells. Like you take, is it in the US? You take one shell. Okay, that's good. Is he close enough that I can visit him if something doesn't work out? Does he understand the technology? Is the timing right? And you have several layers that people first evaluate before they consider even investing.
I'm very much waiting for the good onion.
Yeah. Seems like you've been eating some onions.
Guys, before wrapping up and maybe everyone having a last word or conclusion, let's do like 2 questions, 1 word or 2 words. Last book read?
Finished or read? Finished or reading?
You enjoyed. Last book you discovered and enjoyed or liked or learned something valuable.
Pattern breakers.
Okay. What's
just one? Yeah, the essence is this. It's just a distillation of what it takes for people to build startups and why startups are by default different from other businesses. The pattern breaking theme is very different from someone that just learns the rules and then goes by the rules and so forth. So it's a great distillation of what are the people that really build something that's very disproportionate in reward.
look.
I'll allow myself to just change a slightly bit the question. Yes, and still give something very
founder mode.
Yeah. Thank you. So
this is what politicians usually do.
Yeah.
You know, you are not asking the right question. Let me tell you what you should ask me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do that.
So basically, something that I want to share with other founders within the ecosystem is that I've ended up in the thread from A16Z. There's on X right now a pretty new thread which incorporates a new series of workshops, very practical ones on token crafting, token design, protocols designs, and product market fit, especially building into the Web3 with experiences from hands-on from managers, from guys that have led Web2 divisions within Google and failed, and what were the winnings actually that they got and move forward with them, and then could be shared as a win for the rest of the life. So I strongly recommend that. It's especially for founders that are listening to us. That's one of the gold mines that I have looked and read and followed up into.
And this is on Twitter?
That's on X. On X and YouTube are the videos, but it's an entire thread with videos. It was an incubator.
And now they have a program. Like School for Startup or something like that.
It's a new one in
Crypto Startups.
Yeah, it's one in London that just happened, I think, a few months ago. Okay. A really, really good one. So that's what I've been enjoying and falling the rabbit hole ever since. And that's why I'm looking ever since. It changed a bit the way I'm looking at products, the way I'm interpreting and trying to iterate and validate when it comes. Also that to understand what other people are looking, actually how the most those guys actually are evaluating when it comes to any kind of technology. That's what I encourage our listeners to, if they are building anything in the space, have a look at.
How about yourself?
I'm gonna change the answer. Now it's founder stories. The last I enjoyed, I think it was not sure. I think it was YC stories.
Jessica Livingston.
Yeah, the wife of Paul Graham.
Mm-hmm.
I really was. There is always this. I don't know how to say it.
Hunger.
I mean, seeing other people struggling makes me happy. You don't feel alone in the dark. No. It's very, very interesting on similar experiences and sometimes different angles.
Sure.
And I really like that part. That part.
The struggle.
The struggle.
The struggle is real. It's real.
Guys, maybe one last word, something that you wanted to say and I didn't ask you, a conclusion, quote.
Look, we're alive. We're building. It's going to be tricky. That's the default. It's going to be difficult. There will be many mistakes. Sometimes we'll try much more than we need to, that we are supposed to. But if we're alive and can improve and can correct, the next day we'll wake up and try to fucking conquer the world. That's what we'll do. Will we win? Will we end up in the right place?
Or die trying?
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. We are either going to end up there or definitely die trying. That's for me. Just my 2 cents.
I mean, let's do it.
Let's do it.
That's it.
Let's fucking go, guys.
So, guys, this was the second episode. I think now is the moment to say like, subscribe, share.
Yes, and thanks to our donors and sponsors.
And they do this. We don't know where the button is gonna be. Please press that button. Might be an ad, or maybe I got it. So I'm gonna press those. And see you again on the next episode.
And talk soon. See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Keep building.